Once the children were tucked in for the night, my wife settled beside me and remarked, "Ryan, there's something I need to share with you. Greetings and welcome. Delight in the content, join our community, and activate notifications." Ryan had never been one to succumb to the whims of love with ease. Indeed, he had consistently approached his emotions with a sense of caution. He had encountered several letdowns and understood how the thrill of the outset could morph into exasperation by the conclusion. Yet, upon encountering Emily, the world shifted entirely. Time seemed to freeze, allowing him to take in every subtle movement she made. Her smile, the way she twirled her hair when anxiety crept in, the candidness with which she expressed her thoughts, all of it stirred something within him, leaving him astonished by the depth of his feelings. As he delved deeper into her world, an undeniable connection began to weave itself around his heart. While other tales had caused him to pause, this one compelled him to flee. He began with a measured pace. He would send her messages without any particular reason, simply to remind her that she was on his mind. One fateful day, he appeared at her doorstep, clutching a book she had once spoken of reading in her youth. On another occasion, he thoughtfully assembled a basket filled with her favorite delicacies and delivered it to her workplace, ensuring she wouldn't have to dine in solitude. What astonished all was his utter lack of expectation for anything in return. He acted on his own desire. For beneath the surface, he yearned for her to understand just how extraordinary she truly was. Even on days when she appeared aloof, he remained steadfast in his pursuit. As she expressed her weariness with the world, he remained attentive, gently clasping her hand until the quiet enveloped them in a soothing embrace. Initially, Emily regarded the entire situation as excessively dramatic. She emerged from a tumultuous relationship, one marked by hollow assurances and letdowns. She was reluctant to foster any expectations. Yet, as time passed, she came to understand that there was an unmistakable quality about Ryan that set him apart. He never had to utter the words of love repeatedly. His every action proclaimed it with fervor. As she fell ill and found herself confined to her bed, he remained steadfastly by her side for 3 entire days, despite the weight of pressing obligations awaiting him. He called off all plans. He claimed that she was the priority. Emily found herself taken aback by such an extraordinary display of commitment. Never before had anyone positioned her at the very heart of it all in such a way. The proposal for romance lacked the adornments of blooms or grandiloquent declarations. It was with genuine intent. He gazed deeply into her eyes and declared, "If you allow me to remain, I vow to ensure your safety. Should I ever stumble, I shall rise once more." Time and again, she wept. And thus, it was embraced. From that moment forward, their existence was forever altered. They acquired an unassuming dwelling, yet it brimmed with aspirations. They collaborated on the walls, blending colors in delightful chaos, their laughter echoing amidst the delightful disorder. As the days unfolded, they wove together a tapestry of memories, and before long, the wedding arrived. It was a gathering of souls, a closeness shared only with those who held significance in the tapestry of life. Ryan appeared to be caught in an unending smile. In the midst of their vows, he pledged to remain steadfast by her side, even in those moments when love seemed elusive. He vowed to battle each day to guarantee that she would never again experience the pangs of solitude. A year later, their first child entered the world. Ryan embodied the essence of fatherhood, rising in the stillness of night to warm the bottle and softly hum tunes. Despite his lack of vocal prowess, he cradled the baby gently, allowing Emily a moment of respite after a long, tiring day at work. He embraced the tasks, shouldering each one as if every aspect of the routine rested equally on his shoulders alongside hers. 2 years hence, their second daughter made her entrance into the world. In that moment, the family sensed a profound sense of wholeness. They captured moments in photographs, enjoyed leisurely picnics, and marked ordinary occasions with homemade cakes and whimsical drawings adorning the walls. Ryan had a passion for capturing every moment, as if he sought to immortalize each fragment of that joy. Yet, as is its nature, time started to shift the cadence of existence. The demands of work grew relentless, and exhaustion settled in like a heavy cloak, causing the two to drift away from the effortless connection they once shared. Yet, Ryan persisted. He purchased tickets to the performances she adored, despite his lack of enthusiasm for the bands themselves. He crafted meals with care whenever she expressed that the day had been challenging. He led the children on strolls, granting her the precious gift of solitude. Yet, in spite of all these gestures, an emptiness started to expand between them. He sensed an unsettling undercurrent, yet dismissed it as merely the weight of monotony settling in. Up until that night, Samantha appeared peculiar, her eyes unfocused, as though she inhabited a realm apart from the present. Ryan experienced a constriction in his chest, an instinctive awareness of the impending events. She settled onto the couch, clutching a pillow with fervor, inhaled deeply a few times, and then finally spoke the words. Merely a handful of words, and they were sufficient to send everything tumbling into chaos. I found myself entangled with another person. She claimed it was a spur-of-the-moment decision, that it held no significance, that she felt overwhelmed. It was an event that ought never to have transpired. Yet for Ethan it signified the world. For it unraveled the narrative he had painstakingly crafted with immense dedication, profound affection, and meticulous attention. He remained quiet. He rose from his seat, made his way to the bedroom, retrieved a pillow and a blanket, returned to the living room, and offered them to her with a gentle gesture. "The guest room is where you find your rest," he spoke with a serene composure, devoid of any shouting or tears. Yet within him, a fracture had formed. From that night onward, every gesture that had once brimmed with affection transformed into a chasm of distance. Despite her apologies, her tears, and her attempts to explain, he found that he could no longer listen with the same heart as he once had. For him, the betrayal transcended the mere act itself. It encompassed all that it symbolized, concerning the depth of his conviction in his own sufficiency, concerning the extent of his dedication, convinced he was crafting a foundation that would endure. Confronted with this harsh truth, Ryan's mind was consumed by a singular thought. How could one person wreak such havoc, even after being given everything? That night shattered more than merely a vow. Samantha nestled into the mattress in the guest room, hoping that the act might somehow dispel the guilt that weighed heavily upon her. She understood that Ryan had received the news as if struck by a heavy force. His silence was more chilling than the loudest cry. Within his silence lay a muffled scream, an unexpressed anguish, a sense of disillusionment permeating every nook of the home like a fracture that remained unaddressed. With the dawn of a new day, Samantha stirred from her slumber. Rising early to greet the morning light, she meticulously crafted breakfast for the children, her heart yearning for a gesture, a flicker of hope that hinted at the possibility of salvaging what remained. Ryan descended the stairs, filled his cup with coffee, and greeted the day with a simple good morning, his gaze fixed elsewhere. For the first time, she experienced the sensation of being unseen within the walls of her own sanctuary. As the afternoon waned, burdened by her emotions, she reached for paper and pen, crafting a letter with care. She penned her thoughts with the fervor of a heart laid bare. She revealed it all: the regret, the shame, the reasons that eluded her own comprehension. She refrained from justifying the mistake, yet she endeavored to elucidate the path that led her there. With meticulous care, she folded the letter and placed it gently on his pillow, pausing to take a deep breath before stepping out of the room. Upon her return, the letter remained in its place, untouched, pristine. That shattered her. She contemplated the idea of reclaiming it, yet ultimately chose to let it be. Should he desire, he would delve into it. Should he choose to overlook it, that would present an alternative response. The following morning, as she organized the children's room, she happened to glance at his bedroom door and noticed that the letter had vanished. The pillow lay pristine, its surface untouched, as though it had never cradled a head in slumber. Her chest constricted, a tightness spreading through her as if the air itself had become a heavy weight. He had perused it, or at the very least he had made contact with it, and that, despite its diminutive nature, held significance. That evening, She discovered the letter, neatly folded once more, resting on the living room table. Upon it lay a note bearing only 2 words, which I read. That moment drove Samantha to tears, leaving her in the bathroom for nearly an hour. Ryan had perused it. He possessed an all-encompassing knowledge. Yet, he opted to maintain his distance. In the days that ensued, she endeavored to cling to whatever fragments remained within her grasp. She sought a transfer at work, entirely severing ties with the coworker in question, disregarding messages, blocking numbers, and altering her daily routine. She sought to demonstrate through her deeds that she remained deserving. Ryan observed, yet he remained unresponsive. The sole alteration was his increasingly late arrivals from work, as though he were making a concerted effort to linger outside the confines of home. Samantha meticulously orchestrated each gesture with precision. She crafted his beloved meals, penned tender little notes, and arranged the home's details just as he preferred. Yet the replies lacked warmth. Acknowledgement, a subtle shift, a diversion in conversation. It felt as though I was cohabiting with a ghost, one who had uttered their farewell yet lingered on, bound by a sense of duty. The most excruciating moment came when I understood that his affection for the children remained as gentle and unwavering as ever. He shared in their smiles, engaged in play, and embraced the moment fully. Yet, when he encountered her, it felt akin to traversing a desolate avenue. The lack of words, the absence of touch, and the void of eye contact created a sensation akin to existing in a state of living death. And she sensed it with every passing moment. She proposed the idea of couples therapy. He consented, yet emphasized, "I'm doing this for the children." During the initial session, Samantha revealed her thoughts. She recounted her emotions prior to the betrayal, illustrating how the monotony had consumed the woman she had once been. She articulated her struggles with emotional exhaustion, the weight of suffocating loneliness, and the persistent sensation that she remained unseen by those around her. She confessed to having erred in seeking solace externally for the pain that resided within. The therapist absorbed every word. Ryan did as well. Yet, as the session drew to a close, he merely stated that it did not alter the actions you took. The statement landed with the weight of a judgment. Yet, despite everything, she found herself in the car beside him, as if resigning to a fate she felt powerless to change. The sessions persisted. Samantha endeavored to reconstruct the fragments, despite the sharpness that bit into her fingertips. She orchestrated an enchanting evening, adorned with cherished photographs from their past, melodies that heralded the dawn of their love, and a modest cake infused with his favorite flavor. Ryan returned home, cast his gaze upon the table, and declared, "I'm not hungry." He ascended the staircase and secured the door behind him. With a gentle breath, she extinguished the candles, one after another, and carefully set aside the remnants of the celebration. She settled onto the couch, remaining there until dawn, pondering whether any fragment of him remained that was worth the struggle. Despite the pain she felt, her inner response remained a resolute yes. Yet gradually, her gestures started to be shunned. Embraces collided with defensive barriers. Dialogue was confined to what was essential. As she offered her thoughts, he replied with terse remarks. As she reached out to express her feelings, he recoiled. The letter that once symbolized a fresh beginning transformed into yet another reminder that he had already started to bid farewell. In that moment, she began to understand that perhaps she was battling a struggle that could only be conquered through unity. At this juncture, Samantha found herself navigating the delicate balance between guilt and her earnest efforts. She departed the house in the early hours, returned later, and entrusted the children to their grandparents on certain weekends, hoping that the distance might create a fissure in their relationship. Yet what flourished was the stillness. In this moment of silence, there existed a name, a narrative, a profound heaviness. Despite her firm grip on all that she felt, an undeniable sensation lingered. Love was ensnared in a realm where Ryan had long since departed. After months of attempting to salvage a relationship that had long since fallen apart, Samantha suggested a trip. This was her final endeavor. She proposed Hawaii, the enchanting destination of their honeymoon. She pondered whether returning to that moment might spark something anew in Ryan. As she shared her thoughts, anticipation of rejection loomed over her. Yet, to her surprise, he responded with a calm assurance, suggesting they explore flight options together. Lack of enthusiasm, absence of opinion. She realized that his departure was driven solely by a sense of obligation. She meticulously arranged every detail. She requested that Ryan's parents look after the children, orchestrating the trip as a nostalgic journey back in time. She reserved the identical hotel, selected the same excursions, and packed the dress she had worn when they first unveiled their love. Ryan exhibited a courteous demeanor upon his arrival. He grasped the bags, expressed his gratitude, and gazed at the ocean, his face a mask of indifference. As they made their way to the hotel, she attempted to engage him in conversation, yet he replied with little more than brief phrases or the occasional nod. On that initial night, Samantha came to understand that he existed merely in a physical sense. They engaged once more in the familiar activities of the past. They explored the familiar tourist attractions, exchanged smiles with passers-by, yet an invisible chasm lay between them, devoid of any true connection. Ryan adhered to the itinerary, engaged in the activities, yet it felt as though he were a mere specter, drifting through the moments without truly being present. Samantha, despite the odds, persisted in her efforts. She arranged for a boat ride as the sun dipped below the horizon. It was the very same one from years past. They occupied adjacent seats. She spoke of the children, reflecting on the swift passage of their growth. His reply was devoid of any feeling. As she rested her shoulder against his, he remained motionless. He remained still, neither retreating nor responding. In due course, she extended an invitation for a leisurely stroll. They paused at the very spot where dreams of the future had once been woven together. Samantha inquired whether he held faith in the notion of new beginnings. He paused for a moment, then remarked that at times we attempt to recapture something that has faded away. She enveloped him in her embrace. He embraced her in return, and pressed his lips against hers. Yet, the kiss held a distinct quality. Unyielding, devoid of haste. It seemed to carry the weight of a farewell. Under the cloak of night, they found solace in each other's presence as they surrendered to sleep side by side. Yet, in that tender moment, Samantha sensed that he shied away from meeting her gaze. She came to understand that he feigned engagement while retreating within. With the dawn breaking, Ryan laced up his shoes and set out for a run. Upon his return, Samantha stood ready with a steaming cup of coffee in hand. They lingered in each other's company, sipping quietly, the silence enveloping them like a soft blanket. He chose not to speak of the previous night. He completed his task, rose from his seat, and made his way to the shower. The remainder of the day unfolded as if it were a well-worn script, echoing the familiar lines of routine, devoid of feeling, devoid of response. On the final evening, Samantha crafted a meal within the confines of the room. She requested his beloved meal and played the melody that had once filled the air on their wedding day. Ryan entered the room, surveyed the surroundings, and remarked, "You've always had a knack for arranging these affairs." As they gathered around the dinner table, their conversation meandered through a tapestry of light-hearted subjects. In the final moments, she drew near and inquired whether he still harbored any feelings. After a brief pause, he responded, "Last night, I shut my eyes, for if I gazed upon you, I would behold his visage. I made an effort, yet some images linger in the mind, and thus it came to a close." She remained silent. The pain of that cut deeper than any straightforward reply ever could. It served as undeniable proof that he was unable to progress. With a gentle sweep, she gathered the dishes, extinguished the flickering candles, and silenced the melodies that had filled the air. He stepped into the shower. Samantha stood before the mirror, gazing at her reflection, a poignant realization washing over her. She had sacrificed everything in her quest to reclaim something that had long since vanished. As the plane soared through the clouds, Samantha gazed out the window, her emotions bubbling just beneath the surface, fighting to remain composed. She came to realize that despite her relentless efforts, Certain wounds remain untouched by the passage of time. Yet, there are bonds that, despite the presence of love, cannot endure the strain of breaking. Upon returning from the journey, a chill settled in, deepening the cold that surrounded us. The effort to reconstruct merely underscored what had become evident. The connection that once thrived between them had vanished. Samantha observed that Ryan returned home later, ventured out on weekends under the pretense of work events, and wore a smile more frequently in public than within the confines of their home. She scrutinized each shift intently, seeking to grasp the unfolding events. It was not long before a certain name began to weave its way into his discussions with the children. Rachel, initially as a peer, then as a person full of joy, a person with a knack for humor, who shared a fondness for the same television series and possessed the art of attentive listening. His manner of speaking about her carried a distinct quality. His eyes shimmered with a captivating brilliance. One afternoon, Samantha observed as he shared with the kids that Rachel, too, had 2 dogs, and that they had frolicked in the park during a company event. This was more than mere small talk. It was intimacy. It was the subtle nuances that set him apart, the gentle curve of his smile, the vibrant energy that danced in his voice. Within the confines of home, that glimmer had long since faded. Samantha sensed the sharp sting of being supplanted, despite Ryan's silence on the matter. It was an unspoken dismissal. On a leisurely Sunday afternoon, he treated the kids to lunch and captured a moment with them, a snapshot that Rachel later shared on social media. Samantha became aware of it when a mutual friend decided to tag her. In the photograph, his smile radiated a warmth she hadn't witnessed since the days before the betrayal. The children radiated joy, embracing one another, while Rachel subtly positioned herself in the background, a smile gracing her face as well. Samantha remained silent. Yet she sensed it all. It gently shattered her spirit. She began to retreat to the bedroom with increasing frequency. She steered clear of his customary hours. Upon his arrival, she had already nestled herself beneath the covers. Upon awakening, she discovered that he had already departed. That evening, once the children were tucked in, she descended the stairs and discovered Ryan engrossed in his phone, laughter spilling from his lips. Upon sensing her presence, he set the phone aside. She remained silent, posing no questions. She made her way to the kitchen, filled a glass with water, inhaled deeply, and then came back. She lingered at the threshold for a moment, her voice barely rising above a whisper. "You appear more content when you're not by my side." He remained silent. He simply gazed at her. She pressed on, "I still love you." Yet, to love someone who does not return that affection feels like a constant surrender. Ryan swallowed with difficulty, yet remained mute. She then expressed, "I don't want our children to be raised in a home where love has faded into mere memory. I desire for them to witness your smile. Even if that smile has faded from my presence." It was at that moment she requested a divorce. She refrained from raising her voice. She held back her tears. She merely conveyed the information to him. For the first time since the confession months prior, Ryan lifted his gaze and fixed it upon her. After a brief pause, he replied, "If that's how you feel, I understand." With a silent nod, she ascended the stairs. That evening, she drifted into a deep slumber, embracing the tranquility she had long been denied. The ensuing days unfolded with a sense of practicality and order. Responsibilities were divided, legal details were deliberated, and families were informed. The children were the sole ones who instantly sensed the repercussions. They inquired about their father's departure. Samantha articulated with precision that while circumstances would evolve, both would continue to be a part of the narrative. Ryan echoed this sentiment as well. There was never a dispute at any moment, and the stillness that enveloped them, an unspoken pact of maturity, seemed to linger in the air. All appeared to unfold in a familiar rhythm until, a few weeks later, Samantha began to feel unwell. Persistent waves of nausea and bouts of dizziness. She believed it was merely anxiety or the weight of the divorce, yet she resolved to undergo testing. Upon receiving the results, she found the confirmation she had been waiting for. She was pregnant. The effect was instantaneous. The weeks aligned perfectly with the night they shared in Hawaii. Her heart pounded in her chest. Uncertainty enveloped her, leaving her to ponder whether this was a form of punishment, an opportunity, or merely another turn in a relentless cycle that seemed destined to persist. She pondered the idea of shrouding it in secrecy. She contemplated the idea of departing from the town. She pondered over it all. Yet, that was not the woman she aspired to become. She arranged a coffee meeting with Ethan, and upon his arrival, she presented him with the envelope containing the test results. He unsealed it, perused its contents with composure, and remained quiet for several moments. He lifted his gaze and inquired, "It's mine, isn't it?" She affirmed. He inhaled deeply and responded, "We'll face this together." After what felt like an eternity, he finally took her hand in his, not in the role of a husband, yet in the role of a father. Samantha found herself pondering the implications of this in the grand scheme of things. Yet, she sensed that, despite the distance, a lingering respect remained. A love that persevered, against all odds. The journey of pregnancy unfolded with a series of routine checkups. Ryan stayed engaged. He assisted with the children, accompanied Samantha to her appointments, and monitored the test results. Though romance eluded them, an undeniable presence lingered in the air. Upon the arrival of the newborn, he stood by, a silent witness to the miracle of life. Upon laying eyes on him for the very first time, tears welled up in his eyes. Samantha wept as well, due to various factors. He wept for the son. She wept for all that had transpired, for the aspirations they had pursued, and for the realization of what would forever remain out of reach. Their tale concluded not with battles, but with an array of indelible impressions. Ryan relocated to a nearby apartment. He dedicated moments to the children, nurturing the baby, and crafted a fresh routine. Samantha pressed on with her own. She guided the children through their studies, nurtured the newborn, and slowly unearthed her inner resilience. The affection they once shared transformed into something entirely different. It evolved into a profound sense of care, respect, and an enduring connection, all forged through the presence of the children. Yet that was the conclusion of the marriage. Devoid of scandal, absent of total absolution, and without retracing steps, it was only after a considerable passage of time that Samantha came to realize the most profound expression of love she could extend was to liberate Ryan from everything that bound him. And there are moments when you love someone, and the most challenging task isn't the battle itself. It is time to release. Let each individual carry the scars they have chosen to embrace. If you found it enjoyable, be sure to subscribe to the channel and activate notifications to stay updated on all the latest content. Until we meet again.